Okay.
Uh, okay, for those who are just now catching up on the recording, let me back up to I forgot to start the recording when we started, so let me back up to where we first started. We got up through Article 7 yesterday, so today we're starting at Article 8, which is committees. Uh, Section 1 is the auditing committee. I'm not going to read this because everybody can read through it themselves. They have the link directly to read the article or the entire bylaws. The audit committee is basically the one that looks at the financial records. It dictates that they have to do it at least once a year. It also says that the audit committee, the people serving on it, no more than one of them can be an officer in the club. At least two of the people have to be non-officers of the club. We're trying to avoid a conflict of interest or basically just trying to be transparent with the books. Section 2 is the nomination committee. This has to do with elections specifically. Well, the way it's written, it deals with elections of the board of directors and officers. It's 3 to 5 people members in good standing. Actually, this should say members of type 2. Because up above, we have 2 levels of membership. Let's see. Let me go up and look at membership.
Yeah. You're right.
Warrant catchers and removers.
Article 4, Section 2, colony removal professional. Those are the people that are allowed to vote and serve. People that are only on there to catch swarms, they're allowed to show up as on our website, but they don't really have anything to do with. They're not professional bee removers, so they don't really qualify as the group we're representing. So let's see, I just said it. Article 4, Section 2, Type 2, colony removal professional. All right, so let me come down here and add that. Article 4, Section 2, is that right? Okay.
Hey, he made it.
Let me admit him. Michael, are you there? Hey, we see you with no shirt. I love it. Welcome. Can you hear us? Wave if you can hear us, Michael. Okay, he can hear us.
All right.
All right. We are down to Article 8 committees, page 9 of the bylaws. Do you still have the bylaws document open, the Google documents? Can you see them both at the same time? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, he turned his video off so that he could look at that. That makes sense. All right. We're at Section 2, Nomination Committee. Nomination process shall be conducted in a manner that ensures openness and equal opportunities to all qualified members. I got through that. Let's see. Where was I? I was down on 6. Shall report to the board of directors a nomination of at least one person for each officer position be elected. In other words, if we have a position to be elected and nobody volunteers to run, they're supposed to go out and recruit at least one person to be on the ballot so that we have the officer positions filled when the elections come. B is all members who meet the qualifications of an officer of the organization shall appear on the ballot for the position in which they were nominated. That part means that if everybody who's nominated appears on the ballot, they don't get to pick and choose. Same thing that we talked about before. Any discussion? Sound good? Ryan looks like he's reading intently.
I'm thinking about the nominations. It says submitted to the committee, but it doesn't provide any details about how. Are we comfortable with that, or do we think we need to provide some sort of guidance there?
Just from how that works in our club, usually it's just an email to the board of directors. Usually just from the chairman, who reports back what the committee came up with.
No, I mean the members who might be nominating each other for positions. It says may be submitted to the committee from members in good standing.
Oh,
I'm just wondering if we need to provide a method for that, or if we think common sense will prevail.
Steve has a question about that too.
I think I would rather leave it open to any way that somebody wants to contact the nomination committee. If they want to call somebody on the nomination committee and nominate themselves or somebody else, that fits. I would rather not restrict them in how they nominate somebody.
Okay. Then perhaps we need to require the organization to provide a contact point at least.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Committee.
Nomination committee shall
Probably up here when the board selects who the nomination committee is.
yeah, early on.
The board notifies the membership of who the nomination committee is.
Yeah. Again, probably common sense. I just.
No, I agree. The secretary probably should notify the membership of the members. Actually, we can merge this 3 with that, because when they say who the membership of the committee is, they should at the same time say what positions are being elected, are open for election, right?
Yeah, you could put it in there as number 3. It could be.
Well, I was going to take 3 and put it up here with the new number 1.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes even more sense. Steve asked, what happens if a person says no to the nomination?
Well, that would be part of the job of the nomination committee, is making, if somebody nominates another person, the nomination committee, part of the qualification is they have to accept it. It's not written, but it's kind of understood. Now, we can specify that if you think we need to.
Is there a reference to Robert's Rules of Order in here, or is this set of bylaws free of that, Chris?
There are no references to Robert's Rules of Order directly. We can go in and put that in if you think we need to.
You know, I've definitely got a love-hate relationship with Robert's Rules of Order. but I do think it's kind of where Steve's question leads, because if you don't make some overt reference to a background structure and backbone for this, then you do need to address every little question like that, I guess.
Okay.
It is a way to.
I would suggest that if we do that, let's see, definitions, membership, organization, committees, discipline. I'm trying to think of where we would put that. Order of business.
I frequently see it just dropped in as its own section at the end of a set of bylaws. You know, I'll
Like an Article 13?
yeah, it'll say something about all meetings should be conducted in an orderly and civilized fashion. Robert's rules of order shall prevail in cases of
Okay.
future.
Well,
I
there
like
is the
ones that
order of
kind
business
say-
here. We could make it a section in that.
I like, and I don't know, I'm trying to think where I've read this, but I've seen some that kind of declare it almost as a fallback in case of contention rather than as the rule of order. Because, yeah, like Steve is saying in the chat, if you get to Roberts, it gets very, very formal very fast.
Yeah.
And somebody can completely derail proceedings by knowing how to do it in ways that other people don't. But I do think there's value in the fallback. So my tendency would be to say things are conducted in a reasonable fashion, and in cases of contention, Robert's rules of order shall prevail.
All right.
Something to that effect. If we're gonna fight, we're gonna fight proper. But if we're not gonna fight, we're just gonna do do things the way that works. But yeah, I'm guessing that comes later.
I'm not even sure what to title that section.
Yeah, or orderly proceedings. I don't know. I'm just saying something, but just put filler in for now. We'll come up
Like
with
that?
Yeah, good title. That's perfect.
Um,
Um,
how's that?
yeah, and I just add not dictated by these bylaws?
Yes.
So I don't. Business shall be conducted according to these bylaws. If procedure not dictated by these bylaws is in question, Robert's Rules of Order shall dictate how business is conducted.
Yeah. We probably could clean up the wording, but I think
Yeah.
the gist of it's there. All right. Well, let's go back up to where we were then, because I don't want to lose track. All right.
Agreed.
Let's see. We were on 6, shall report. Okay, we're on 7. Or next 7's the next. Nominating committee may consist, and this is the same thing as above, of no more than one current officer or of the organization. I think we should probably use the same wording that we used up here.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm just going to copy that.
I just, volunteers come and go, and you'd rather see things already prepared for in a case of shortage.
There, it's the same phrasing we used above. Okay, section 3 is other committees may be appointed by the board of directors as needed to advance the objectives of the organization and may consist of any number of officer and or non-officer members. I think that's a good addition.
And I added that because at one point we had discussions on one board I was on about what happens when a committee falls back to 1 or 0 members, and do you have to reestablish it formally at some point? And it was really just a headache. If you're down to 1 volunteer or even temporarily no volunteers, you still just want somebody to get back to doing what needs to be done as soon as possible.
Sorry, Michael's texting me. He said that he can barely hear what's going on.
Oh. Other than recording, I'm not sure how to help.
Yeah, it is being recorded, Michael, so if nothing else, you'll be able to hear it. There, okay. I don't know if you even heard that. Okay, Article 9 is discipline. It's always a fun one to have in here. This whole article is what happens if somebody's accused of misconduct. Section 1 is charges, and it says any member of any level may prefer charges against a member for alleged misconduct presidential to the best interest of the organization. Written charges with specifications must be filed in duplicate with the secretary. I'm not sure why it's in duplicate. Why does the secretary get 2 of them? Together with a deposit of $50, which shall be forfeited if the charges are not substantiated by the board of directors following a hearing. The secretary shall promptly send a copy of the charges to each member of the board of directors or present them at a board of directors meeting, and the board of directors shall first consider whether the actions alleged in the charges, if proven, might constitute conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the organization. Let me stop and explain that line right there. If somebody files a grievance against somebody and says, Joe Blow is overcharging people for their services, but the part of the charge doesn't include anything that they did anything wrong. They just were charging more than they think was fair. For example, if I go to a client and I say, well, this job looks like a $2,000 job, and they say yes, okay, well, that may be exorbitant, but I was straight up with the client as far as what I'm charging.
Right. Yeah.
So there's nothing.
Slightly more ridiculous scenario. I went to Chris's house and he was crushing bees when he was doing hive inspections, and people saw him do it. I think he gave a bad impression of our organization. Board would come back and say, hey, even if that's true, it simply doesn't matter, right? Right,
yeah. In which case, then the board simply, that's the first thing the board looks at. It's sort of like in a trial. You have the hearing before you have the trial.
Yeah.
And the judge says these charges aren't even substantiated, aren't even enough to go to trial, then the case is dismissed right there. That's what the board's looking at to say if the charges even warrant having a hearing. Go ahead.
Steve put
oh, sorry.
some stuff in here in the chat that's good points. What happens if an organization gets a bunch of complaints about a person? Can the board start its own investigation based on a large number of member complaints? And I think he makes a good point. I think based on the way this is worded, one of the board members would have to step up and pay the $50 to make that happen.
Okay, this came pretty much straight out of my dog club where we did have issues like this come up. And in that kind of a case, usually it's the president who steps up and files the complaint. It doesn't have to be the president, but that's what happened in my dog club when we did this.
Okay, and I understand why we're talking about some investment in this process.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is potentially an expectation that a board member steps up and does it in some circumstances, do we at least want to save them that expense? President can do it on behalf of the board with a board vote without, you know, I mean, I guess it doesn't hurt if you're confident that the board's going to back you. You put the $50 up and you get the $50 back.
Yeah. Let's see.
And
Well, we already have
if
one
we have-
exemption below for the audit committee being exempted.
surely if we have a large number of members mad at somebody, one of them is willing to put up $50 to have
Yeah.
everybody else agree with them.
Yeah, if it's the public at large filing complaint at one person over and over and over again, surely there's going to be a member that steps up and does it too. And what happens in reality is that the person who finally files the formal complaint kind of knows ahead of time that the board's going to take it seriously. And so that $50 is just a deposit that they get back.
And Steve also pointed out, what if it's customer complaints? What if we're actually contacted by removal customers complaining about their removal experience? Do we want to give the board
That's a civil
pass
matter.
that?
Yeah, that one I would be a little more leery of, because I mean, and I'm sure you know about this too. Sometimes you do the best job possible and then the customer shows up and it's like, well, I didn't know you were going to leave the wall open. And it's like, well, I told you I don't do repairs. It's like,
Right. Yeah. No, you can do everything right and still have an unhappy customer.
right. You know, and you do the best you can to make them happy, but some people you're just not going to make happy.
It does bring into question one thing. We talked about a vetting process, but that's all only on initial membership, right? There is no checking on renewal of membership of any kind.
That was one of the discussions we had in several of the meetings. I think especially the Houston meeting when Ed was there. Man, I wish Ed was on this discussion. Because he was great in those meetings. He came to the meeting in Austin too.
Because I wouldn't necessarily think that you would initially jump to let's try and kick somebody out because we heard a complaint about them. That seems pretty dramatic.
Yeah, no.
Some reference to revetting someone based on multiple complaints. That's as close as I'd be comfortable with, I think.
Right. To me, that process is different than discipline.
I agree. I was just suggesting that might be a better place to address customer complaints if we wanted to address them anywhere.
To be honest, I don't think customer complaints belong in the board in the bylaws. I think we do need to have a formal document for it, but not the bylaws.
Okay. No, that's a valid point.
And does that just look like us telling them to, hey, you need to work things out with your customer?
Yeah.
Does it become a civil matter between the customer and the contractor or whoever's doing the removal?
Now Steve brought up where the multiple cases of where dust was used by supposed removers.
Right.
I would hope that our initial vetting process would not have allowed those people into the organization to begin with.
Right.
Somebody who is dusting to kill bees outright, that to me is a discipline issue that, you know, either a member could bring up or the board, a member of the board could file those charges and say, look, we know that, or we've got reports that you're dusting.
It's far more likely that another remover is going to hear that report than that we're going to be contacted as an organization about it.
I agree. And at that point, we handle it just like what we're talking about here in Article 9.
Okay.
Um,
So I agree with your comment, Chris. Duplicate seems weird in part because it seems like it's insisting on actual paper copy, which I don't know if we want to do.
yeah, I think we should remove in duplicate. I think that was left over from the days of when things were done on paper.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really happen hardly ever anymore.
Okay. And I also had a comment further down that talks about this dollar amount and the possibility that someone could just get upset with the organization and throw a bunch of money and lock the board of directors up. What if it was alleged misconduct by the whole board, paid their $300, and now none of those board members can help resolve this according to the bylaws, and we can all argue about it?
Well, did you see my comment below that? Well, first thing back in October, I said, I never considered that an arbiter. But then the other day I said, after thinking about this, I would tend to think this would be a way to attempt a coup d'etat.
Yeah, it would be somebody mad at the organization, not somebody who not somebody who's legitimately I assume it would not be legitimate guilt on the board.
Right. In which case, well,
but you know, if
a
it is
complaint like this, if you notice, this only comes from a member. So it would have to be somebody who somehow we let in as a member. But
well, okay, let's say it's the first person you try to kick out.
Oh, and then they turn around and try and claim that?
They turn around and flag the whole board. What next?
Well, there's nothing in the above section where it talks about claiming misconduct by multiple people in one complaint. So the way this is written is the board would take each individual complaint one at a time. So my guess is what we'd probably do is the board would take the complaint against the president and deal with that one. And then as soon as he was exonerated, they would take the complaint against the vice president and exonerate that one and so on and so forth until the guy finished wasting his money.
Okay, so I think probably what we need to try and specify then is down here under number 1, we need to, instead of any capacity matters involving charges, we need to specify that they cannot serve on the charges against them so that the board can separate those charges. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah, yeah.
Shall not serve in any capacity, shall not serve, maybe in any capacity seems confusing to me. As a member of the board of directors in the matters directly pertaining to the charges against them.
How about just in that?
Well, but if it's one accusation against, quote unquote, one incident that is claimed against the whole board, we want them to specifically be able to separate those charges, and that's.
I would be hard pressed to be willing to even accept charges against the entire group. To me, that's not what discipline charges are about. Discipline charges are about something that somebody does in the midst of a removal or something like that. Or in the case of maybe the treasurer doing something funny with the money.
I understand that's the intention. I just don't see it on the page.
Okay.
I mean, alleged misconduct prejudicial to the best interests of the organization. It would be hard to say that favoritism being exhibited in ejecting somebody isn't that.
Um,
Um,
I'd almost be willing to I don't know how you could get away with doing this. My thought is I would almost be willing to put in a line here that says you cannot file charges against more than 3 board members at one time.
we could address it that way. That would be another way to address it.
Because that's simply not going to happen, because the entire membership is voting on who the board is. And if somebody's filing charges against the entire board, then they're basically filing charges against the entire membership that elected them.
So, okay, so a member may not file charges against more than 50% of the board until charges are resolved, until previous charges are resolved.
Well, or just in a single charge.
Well, but if they do it today and tomorrow and you haven't had time to address anything yet, it doesn't help us any.
Well, you still treat each charge separately.
Okay.
So, you know, this half of the board deals with one of them and the other half of the board deals with the other one. And you still have a working board.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying is, as I read this, once a charge is made, the person it is against is not allowed to do anything.
No, only in that matter. That's what this line right here, in matters involving the charge.
Okay, and that's where the in any capacity is really confusing.
Okay.
Because it also says shall not serve in any capacity.
All right, we'll get rid of that. Get rid of that little phrase there.
Okay. All right, let's kill that then. The member shall not serve as a member of the board of directors
Involving those specific charges.
Those charges and or disciplinary actions.
How's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just worry that we're going to end up with hard feelings and somebody trying to do something silly.
Well, and like I said, I can see somebody trying to do a hostile takeover of the organization by trying to use this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we certainly don't want to leave ourselves open to where that could happen.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Steve. So one complaint at a time. Oh, yeah. Limit the number of active complaints from a person at a time. Yes.
Yeah, I do think that's
yeah.
In some ways the simplest.
All right. I'm just going to add that directly what Steve suggested. Michael's suggestion about what about a separate team to address complaints that would be free from the board? It could be a separate standing committee. That's certainly a viable option. The only down part to that I can think of is making sure we have enough members to make that viable. I can also see is that would be a hard committee to get people saying yes, they're willing to serve on it.
It would definitely be a make enemies type committee in a worst case scenario.
Yeah. But I think the suggestion has merit, though.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a good way to, if it is potentially directed at the board, you don't want them to just gang up on us about it.
That would certainly get rid of because it would be awfully hard for somebody to file charges against the board and that specific committee at the same time.
Yeah, you could make it a committee that's half board and half members. That has some degree of balance to it in a situation where charges are alleged against a board member.
Well, I would just make it simpler and do it the same way that we did the other committees above. Just have a certain number of people serving on the committee and limit the number of current board members on that committee, assuming there are sufficient number of non-officer volunteers willing to serve. Have that same qualifier.
Yeah, but on that one, I almost like balancing it both directions, not just a preference for members who are non-board members, but a preference for a good split.
Well, it doesn't have to be one.
Right.
So should we go ahead and add another committee up above? Because if we do that, it gets rid of a lot of the stuff in here.
What if we just add a bullet point in here somewhere that the board of directors may elect to appoint a committee to act on their behalf in these matters?
Okay.
If we're kind of given options anyway in terms of whether it's the same people or not, we could just give the option. The board may assign these duties to a committee who accepts nomination to serve, however you want to say it.
All right. I think I want to split up the charges and stuff then.
Yeah, I don't know where it goes, but
yeah.
And it's clear in section 3 above that the board can make the committee, but I guess then the committee can't do these things that the bylaws say must be done by the board unless we clarify that that's allowed.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said the board of directors can already make a committee and say this is the discipline committee, but what they can't do is actually let them act as though they're the board of directors down here in section 1 charges.
Well, yeah, I was just about to. Well, I was trying to think of where the split actually would be. I would say that when somebody first filed, well, there's two ways we could do it. When somebody first files the complaint, either that could go straight to a standing committee, or it could still go to the board, which would look at it the same way that we described above and say, no, this isn't a real complaint, don't worry about it. Or yes, if the complaint is real, then it's a real issue, and then we turn it over to the discipline committee.
I mean,
should we just turn it over to the discipline committee right off the bat?
I think if you're claiming there's value to the committee, it kind of needs to go there right off the bat. Otherwise, you're giving the board of directors a veto on it before it goes to the committee.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then. I mean,
either it matters or it doesn't. But if it matters, we should probably go straight to it.
Then I'm going to come up here and make this section 3. To about that, just
Um,
I'm thinking of the construction of the committee.
I would go for a balance between how do we want to word it? I would prefer a balance between direct
Like,
officers and members on that committee, assuming a sufficient number of
well, I
non-officers.
was thinking like 5 people on the committee, 2 officers and 3 non.
I don't like the idea of requiring non-officer members
Okay.
because if the board's got a complaint, they've got to make this happen. What if nobody wants to deal with it, especially if it's a complaint against everybody's best friend? I I think you got to leave both options.
How's that?
Yeah, I'd love to dictate that they can't just pick themselves, but at the same time, if you do so with any teeth at all, then you've insisted that they go make somebody do this, and it may be an unpleasant task.
Right.
I think that's probably the best we can get.
Okay. Steve, what do you think? Oh, 9. Better? Oh, Chris, sorry. Chris Weinweber is just now joining us. Chris, are you there? Well, it says Chris is here, but we'll see. All right, well, let's keep going. Now that we have that there, let's see how we change this now. So let's see. I think the board of directors needs to be notified that there were charges.
All of our other standing committees mention in their section in the bylaws how many members they're supposed to have, and that one doesn't yet.
Right. I'm open to any suggestion.
Um,
I kind of like,
do we want to give a range, say 3 to 5 members?
how's that? Oh,
Okay.
yeah, shall be, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay. All right, let's see. And
And as we talk about setting this and the number of weeks and everything, do we want to specify that this board hearing is done digitally so that there's not geographic and travel issues? We're talking about the whole state of Texas this time.
My inclination is to not specify how meetings are done, because I think that gives more flexibility to allow them to do it however they best see fit.
Okay.
As long as the objective is to increase the participation. I don't want to say we can't meet in person. There's Chris. I see video. Let me unmute you. There he is.
Hey, I was just watching.
Okay.
All right. Chris.
We're down on Article 9 where it talks about discipline, which I'm sure is the most fun part of any bylaws. Basically, what we did was originally this was set so that the board of directors handled discipline charges. We decided it would be better if there was a standing committee, so we added a committee to Article 8, which was right above it, and we added the discipline committee. So now we're rewording this so that the discipline committee handles it rather than the board. The reason we did that, and it's Steve is only able to do, he can see the screen, but he can't talk. So he's doing group chat on the side. And Steve suggested that we do it this way. In the case, well, Ryan suggested it too, in the case that somebody got a wild hair and was all pissed off at the entire board of directors and tried to file discipline charges against the entire board at one time. Kind of a hostile takeover type situation.
Yeah, hang on one second.
Okay.
I got to mute myself.
Okay. So let's keep going now. Secretary shall send a copy of the charges to each member of the board of directors and the members, each member, make it the same, of the discipline committee. I think we can actually one.
We have it in caps up in the committee section. Should we capitalize it here?
In where?
When we're saying discipline committee, should we capitalize it?
Oh, did we capitalize the committees everywhere else when we talked about the other committees?
We did board of directors. I don't know if we audit committee.
Yeah, let's be consistent. Be consistent.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm sorry, we both did that at once, didn't we?
Oh yeah, sorry.
I'm starting at the bottom. Oh wait, no, that one stays. If charges involve a member of the board of directors.
Actually, not less. There.
Oh, there you go.
Nor more than 6.
All right, and I don't like to send by registered mail. That sounds like a terrible, terrible headache. I would love to be able to notify the members in an email if need be.
The reason that we do registered mail for stuff like this, it's a legal CYA for us. I mean, because eventually some of this could involve us kicking them out of the organization. And if we notify them that charges were preferred and there'll be a hearing, we need registered mail means that they have to sign for it. And so we have proof that they were notified. If we email them, there's nothing that says, yes, this person absolutely knows that we told them.
Right, but there's nothing that says we have to have told them if our bylaws don't say it. We're only governed by our bylaws. If there's legal requirements, I'm not aware of them. I think
Well,
we're
if
only
we're-
governed by what we commit to here. So if all we commit to do is email them, then we email them and we don't worry about whether they got it or not, right?
Well, if we're going to have a hearing and they're eligible to come and speak at the hearing, and that's what a lot of this below, where it talks about Section 2 board hearing and expulsion, if that all happens and they have rights to be there, we needed to have told them that there was going to be a hearing in the first place.
I hear the logic in what you're saying and the fairness in what you're saying, but I think it's only true if we commit to it in the bylaws. I think if we write bylaws that say nobody receives any notification, we simply kick them out and they can find out when they find out, then that stands, doesn't it?
Probably so.
I mean, it would not be a popular stance for the organization, but I'm just saying I don't like the idea of allowing members to dictate that the board send registered U.S. mail. That's where I'm coming from. It sounds like
So
something I would not
it's not the secretary anyway, the committee.
Okay. If you feel strongly about it, we'll leave it. I wouldn't want to be
I
secretary.
don't necessarily feel that strongly about it. I can be gone. Yeah, I can take it out. I think we do need to put something in here that we notify them. Now, how we notify them, I think we can leave it up to the secretary. Or not the secretary. The chairman of the disciplinary committee, maybe?
Yeah. If it were up to me, I would just kill the by registered U.S. mail.
Yeah,
And just,
yeah. I'm okay with that. We'll do that. Bye. Okay, how's that sound? Is that better?
Good. And I think on number 4, technically we never allowed a committee to bring these charges. We allowed members to bring these charges. So I would propose we change number 4 to an audit committee member.
Actually, at least in our case, this is the one time where the committee is allowed to bring the charges.
I just
Because
don't
the
see where it
committee
says
is-
that under
The
charges.
committee is a group is the one that went through the books.
I understand that, but charges, section 1 says any member may prefer charges against a member. If we're gonna let a committee do it, we need to say any member or the audit committee. Any member of any level or the audit committee may prefer charges against a member.
I'd rather go ahead and stick it up there and go ahead and put that or the audit committee.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay.
Are you doing it or am I?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll sit
You're
there.
already setting up there.
And I guess that's we've been capitalizing.
Yeah.
Any member of any level or the audit committee may prefer charges against a member. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then the audit committee, not
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Oh, we got an extra line here. There.
And do you mind if we just change the order of 4 and 5 since we're talking about members first?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with that. Okay.
Okay. So I think we're rapidly back down to the board hearing,
Okay.
which is no longer a board hearing.
Now it's a
Now,
committee hearing.
Yeah, and Steve mentioned in chat, this committee has a lot of power potentially, and he's right. He's so right, in fact, that I've got to admit we've kind of got a fatal flaw here because if I'm on the board, I don't want anybody but me on that committee. I don't know what the right answer is there.
To be honest, I've served on hearings like this before. They're not fun.
No, I know. I don't want
so-
to do it either. But at the same time, if somebody else is going to do it, if you're not, then it is uncomfortably powerful committee. That's all.
Yeah, I recognize that.
But maybe the desire a lot of people will feel not to be on it will balance that some.
I think it does, honestly.
Okay.
Oh. The I'm going to scroll up real quick about where we define the audit or the discipline committee.
Okay.
And say the discipline committee will decide amongst themselves who shall serve as chairman and recording secretary of the committee. Because the chairman of the discipline committee kind of acts as the whole committee acts as judges and can ask questions, but the chairman is the one that kind of makes things move and keeps it running. And then somebody else has to record stuff.
Yeah. As we talk about this committee hearing, I've got all privileges of the organization highlighted because that's what the committee at this point, not the board of directors, can suspend a defendant from. And I'm trying to think through how that works based on some of what we've talked about as privileges to this organization. That would mean we're updating the website and removing their contact info, right?
I would think so, yes.
What if, and Chris, I know this is long-term planning, but you've talked about insurance being a privilege of being part of the organization.
Well, we're not providing the insurance to them. All we're doing is negotiating with an insurance company to have a policy available that our members can then contact the insurance company directly and purchase if they
So
want to.
So in that case, the privilege provided by the organization is the access to that quote. It's not the ongoing policy.
Correct.
And what would be suspended would be your ability to get that as a current quote. That is a new quote.
Correct.
Okay.
And if the insurance company wanted to withdraw it, it would be up to them to do that.
Right. Okay. I'm just thinking through it. What other privileges have we talked about for members?
This is where Ed was really good. I have to go back and look at the other meeting minutes and see, because Ed had several good suggestions for stuff like that.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what exactly happens in this case in all those contexts. That's all.
Honestly, being able to say that you're a member of a professional bee removers association is kind of a benefit.
Right.
You know, it's that label you get to put on your bee suit, which we know amongst ourselves means you join the organization. But Joe Q Public out there doesn't know that.
Right.
Other than the fact that we are vetting our members to some extent,
Right.
to the extent we can.
Yeah. So like, sorry, it's Chris again. I'm just gonna jump in and
No,
ask
go ahead.
Yeah, please.
So we need to make sure they're insured. They're licensed to the state to transport bees, right? Because a lot of people don't know that you have to be licensed to transport bees from county to county.
Only if you're going from
Especially where
county
I'm
to
from.
county.
Yeah, especially where I'm from. Well, I live right on the corner of Wichita and Archer County. So I'm like in this big bubble all day, every day I'm crossing county lines. So I just went and did all 10 around me. So
Right.
I mean, and to have that, like that, you know, Texas board certified bee removal, you know, I think would mean a lot, because people don't even know like really anything. They just call whoever that, oh, my buddy does bees. Oh, this person does bees, you know?
Right. Well, the way we dealt with that aspect was up in one of the early sections. It was a simple statement, but it was, we members, it's in the code of ethics that we
Yeah.
abide by all state and local beekeeping laws.
Right. Yeah. I saw
Um,
that. Yeah. So like registering your apiary, all that stuff too, right?
right. You do actually have to be a beekeeper and maintain at least 2 hives,
Yep. Saw that.
as opposed to guys that go out and, yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Charges. Trying to keep moving here. Committee meeting. Discipline committee shall have complete authority to decide whether council may attend the hearing, but both complainant and defendant shall be treated equally. Should the charges be sustained after hearing all evidence and testimony, the committee may by a majority of vote of those present suspend the defendant from all privileges of the organization for not more than 6 months of the date of the hearing. Okay, I think if it deems the suspension is not enough, the recommendation for expulsion then goes to the board. And then the board puts it out for the vote of the members. Does that sound right? I mean, at that point, the board's not really doing that a decision, but it's the board that's calling for the vote to do it as a recommendation from the committee.
I think that we're making a mistake going back to the membership for that. As much as I have my reservations about a extra strong board.
Okay, well, since, you know what, since we now have a committee doing the hearing, should the board then be the ones that actually do the expulsion?
I like that better. It's
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
think
hard.
there's a lot of logic to it.
It's
Rex?
still got a double checks and balances feel to it, and we don't have to try and organize how to do this with the membership.
Right. And honestly, doing an election of the entire membership is kind of a pain in the butt when
It
we're
is.
spread out all over the state.
It absolutely is.
Rex,
I
what do you
think
think?
I think having an official, either the board or, you know, officers handle the trial, you know, maybe with a couple of at-large members for input, maybe, but I don't think it needs to be fully aired unless it warrants.
Okay.
And I
So,
don't know.
well, what do you think about having the committee do the hearing, and then if they recommend expulsion, the expulsion then comes from the board,
Yeah,
not the entire membership?
yeah,
Yes,
I agree with that.
Chris? Okay. All right.
Yes, sorry.
Steve? I think Steve's internet is out. I haven't seen anything from him in a while.
he's still connected, but I assume silence is consent in this
I
case.
think so,
Since we're able
too.
to mute ourselves.
If it's not, Steve will say something here in a minute. Okay, so let's reword this section. Oh, you highlighted something there, Ryan.
But yeah, I was just thinking. I'm not even sure that part is strictly necessary. Well, what's the intention of that part?
Let me read it.
It seems to be tied to the referral back to the membership.
Yeah, I think we get rid of that now. That I don't think that's even necessary.
Okay, so I'm going to scrap that.
Okay, yeah.
And it may recommend to the board of directors is where we're headed, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, the rest of 2 sounds okay.
I almost, hang on. It may also recommend to the board of directors that the penalty be expulsion. I almost feel like then we should say the board of directors should vote, and then after the board of directors has reached a decision, its findings shall be put.
Well, this part about the decision is just what the committee decided that the secretary records and tells the rest of the board. The expulsion
Oh no, you're right. You're right. I'm getting ahead of
decision
myself.
is the next section. Okay.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I read it wrong.
Oh, okay. Of the, yeah, of hearing. Yeah, you're just getting rid of all that other stuff. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where I stopped. Not really. Yeah, it's just don't need any of that, do we?
I'm trying to think of how to word this.
There's a recommendation of expulsion. The board of directors shall consider such action.
Shall,
What are we going
well,
for?
more than just consider the action, I think they actually need to act on it. They either need to vote to proceed with expulsion or simply let the suspension remain.
Okay. I think if we just say consider, then it ends up falling to needing a motion to move forwards. Whereas if we say they shall, then it moves forwards with or without one. Yeah, I don't care which way we go.
Okay.
Is there any rebuttal for expulsion? Like, if you want to like, do you like, hey, I want to get back in good standings?
Well, during the committee hearing, they're certainly allowed to present their side of it.
Okay.
Since this is a different group, does the board want to hear? Probably. My inclination is no. I don't think they hear it all over again. That's what the committee's for.
The no evidence shall be taken at this meeting implies that the board reaches their decision based on what they're told by the committee.
Cool.
If we're not comfortable with that, we need to change that.
No, I like that still there.
Okay. Okay, so the board of directors shall vote on the matter of expulsion. So vote on the recommendation.
I don't even think we need to have this part in there anymore. Well, okay.
I think it's fair to allow them to attend that meeting if we're allowing.
Okay. Well, then let me.
What we should do though is we should say.
All right. Well, let me change it and take that part out then. There. The board of directors shall review the findings and recommendation. The defendant shall have the privilege of appearing in his own behalf. Did we lose somebody?
No.
Oh, okay. I saw. Oh, Chris's video blinked out. That's what it was. Where was I? The defendant shall have the privilege of appearing in his or her own behalf, though no evidence shall be taken at this meeting. President shall read the charges and findings.
I almost feel like by saying they can be there and then making reference to the meeting, we're saying they can be there for the board meeting. And what we really mean to say is they can be there for the portion of the board meeting pertaining to their expulsion. Does that matter?
Not really, because in my experience, if you have this issue, it's only when that section above where we talk about the board is allowed to have special board meetings. That's what this is.
And
this
so
is the only business being conducted at that board meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
It's never said that way, but that's always how it's been done in my experience.
Okay. And this seems to almost contradict. It says no evidence shall be taken, and then it says can speak on their own behalf before the directors vote.
Well, you're basically giving them one last chance to say something, but you're not presenting new evidence for or against them. I mean, they can say whatever they want, but that's not exactly evidence.
Okay.
So this isn't the trial section. This is the execution after.
It's a setting. It's the appeals court after the trial.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way to look at it.
Right.
And 2/3 of we've got.
Well, that was back when the whole membership was doing it. If it's just the board,
That would be a 4 out of 6 vote.
the way the board's currently constructed, I think that's okay.
Yeah. Although, what did we say it takes to actually have a board meeting? It takes 3, 4.
3 plus or 50% plus 1, so 4.
4. Okay. So a 2/3 vote out of 4 is a little less ideal. It's okay.
I think it's still okay because
I'm talking whole people.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the other end of this is if somebody is actually getting expelled, it's pretty much always a unanimous vote. You don't have a lot of split votes here.
Understood.
Charges. Should the there? How's that?
We also need to state that an individual with pending charges shall be immediately suspended from any position they may hold on the discipline board, discipline committee.
Okay. Charges against officers or committee members then.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Is it all committee members or is it discipline committee members?
I think if somebody's being charged with something and they're on the audit committee, they should be off the audit committee.
Okay.
Agreed.
Me too. I have to go back. I'm on my phone, so I keep having to go back and read and then come back and read and come back.
That's a headache. Thanks for doing it to be here with us.
No problem.
There. How's that? That sound better?
Yes, it does. Of course, there's no authority, there's no transfer of position outlined for committees, but I guess that's because it's.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're good here now?
I might have missed it, but are we going to just appoint somebody when they're being charged or whatever to fill their role?
Well, there's up above, we do have timeframes that if somebody is charged with a complaint, this all has to happen within not less than 3 weeks, but not more than 6 weeks.
Okay.
So it's not going to drag out forever.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like, because if they're filling a key role and they are getting the boot, we gotta find somebody to fill their place.
Well, if it happens to be an officer and they are booted, then there's vacancy. Their position is vacant, and we deal with the vacancies as outlined above.
Okay.
Okay. Article 10 is amendments. 1 is proposal of amendments. Basically, it dictates or it specifies who is allowed to propose amendments to the Constitution and bylaws. It's basically by the board of directors or by a written petition addressed to the secretary of A, signed by 20% of level 2, and that's not qualified. We didn't say structural removal anymore. I need to change what that title is. It's colony removal specialist or something. Colony removal professional.
It currently says professional cutout specialist.
Well, I was getting it from up
I'm looking
right
at definition.
here.
Okay.
Oh, I was looking at the Article 4 membership where we specify the exact types. Yeah, we probably ought to change the definition too. But we'll come back, remind me, and we'll come back and get that.
Don't
Or
forget
you can make that change up above if you want to. Let's see, audit committee, at least annually. Why is that? There. There. As defined in Article 4, Section 1. Is it Section 1? Shoot, I got to jump back up again. Article 4, Section 2, 2. Ah, lovely. This is why these things are so fun. Article 4, Section 2, 2. So 20% of the membership is allowed to petition the secretary for a proposed amendment, or amendments proposed by petition, and proposed by petition shall be promptly considered by the board of directors and must be submitted to the members. Considered simply means the board looks at it, but they still have to submit it to the members as is.
Right. I'm not comfortable with the requiring signatures portion of this. And I made reference in the document to a situation that I'm not hesitant to say was TBA, where a member was accused of digital theft for using the member contact list to contact the board about something that the board didn't approve. And so what I'm wondering here is, first off, if we're spread all around the state, what do signatures look like? I'm unclear whether digital signatures could count here. And secondly, we get a lot of inactive members in organizations like this from time to time.
Oh, how do you get 20%?
Yeah, I can't imagine getting 20% of a statewide organization to actually sign something. And I can't imagine that being feasible even if we have 20 members first year. I mean, if I needed you to sign something today,
Well,
Chris,
20% is only 4 members.
I know.
Yeah, if I had to sign something today, I don't think I could get to it.
Well, okay.
That's what I'm saying. If I needed you 3 to sign something today, I don't think I could make it reasonably happen.
No.
I certainly agree that signed indicates paper signs, signatures, and I don't think that's what I'm sure that's not what I meant there.
Like
The
official
question
email or an email correspondence, would that work? Or
to be honest, if I was doing this, y'all know what Doodle is?
Yeah.
if it was a simple doodle poll where people signed in and put their name on it, as long as I have their name and an email address and I have some way to verify, so I can go through and say, call this person and say, hey, did you really say this? Then I'm willing to take a doodle poll as a signed group. It doesn't have to be a paper signature to me.
How about a written petition indicating 20% and providing contact info for those members or something?
A written petition addressed to the secretary.
It's not the 20% that scares me too much, although
It's
even
the
though
word signed.
it's signed, 20% worries me a little bit as an organization gets larger, because if you end up with 500 members and 20% of them being active at the same time as the
Well,
requirement.
for that part, I'm willing to say 20% or some set number.
Okay.
You
I
know,
like
if we have 100 members, if 10 people do it, I'm good with that.
I'd like to see this require some sort of indication of support that allows for verification without requiring actual signatures.
I agree.
Okay.
How do you do that?
A written petition addressed to the secretary.
Okay, well, written also implies paper. How about we take out the word written? A petition.
Addressed to the secretary. I'm almost confused by the A and B points here. Can we break the A and B points out?
Yeah, they're not really A and B here.
Yeah, let's break those out of it for a second, and I think we can pull it back apart if we need to.
Right, yeah.
And I feel like I'm making a mess of this, but you know what I'm going for here.
I think I know what you're going for here. Let me see if I can. This really belongs up there. Oops.
Yeah.
2. There. How's that?
Okay.
Is that formatted better, at least, so that it's. So the proposals come from either the board of directors or the membership.
Yeah, or 2 by the membership.
A petition by petition of the membership. How about or by petition of the membership addressed to the secretary? Here, let me get it in there. By petition. Let me do it real quick because I think I can get it cleaner.
Okay.
By petition, membership.
I don't see a way around having somebody verify this. You're either required, and even if we had signatures, I mean, okay.
Well, yeah, I think we still need to verify it, but the question is,
Which I think it just needs to say indicates support by 20% of the members to be verified by so-and-so. It's a little messy, but I can't think of it better.
well, for now, how about if we just put a hard number on here?
Okay.
By petition of at least 10 members.
Well, let's do a two different a percentage and a number.
Okay, by petition of at least 10 members of or by 20%.
I would love to make that 60 days longer. I don't think there's usually urgency to bylaws changes.
Uh,
Um,
um,
if you had an upcoming annual meeting 90 days out, would you really try to have a vote before then, or you know what I mean?
well,
Yeah,
the
annual
reason for that is so that if there's a bylaws amendment proposal that comes from the membership, the board can't just get it and sit on it and never take action on it.
No, I understand that, and I want a number there. I would like a longer number, so
Okay.
that if there is something coming up, you could make it coincide with it. I'd go for 90 or 120 and still feel like they're not sitting on something forever.
Okay. Well, I'm good with 90 then. Oops.
Okay.
90?
Yeah.
You guys? Rex? Chris?
Yep,
Okay.
90 days is good.
Real quick, how about by the way that I split this up and then phrased it?
We didn't specify whether it's the greater or the lesser of the two. We just gave two options, which I guess means if you have 10 members at the beginning, it only takes 2 to petition a bylaws change. But that's not terrible.
Well, if we have 10 members, yeah, half of them are going to be on the board.
Half of them are on the
6
board.
of them on the board.
I think it doesn't matter when you're that size, so that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I like it.
Okay. I can quickly see number 3 becoming a moot point if we ever have, 100 members. 10 is not 20%, but 10 is enough.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Okay.
Okay, amendments proposed by petition should we have first have signatures validated by the secretary and then promptly considered by the board of directors?
Absolutely.
Okay.
She'll have, and we didn't require signatures anymore, so she'll have support. We required an indication of support.
Well, a petition,
Petition.
it kind of implies signatures, whether they're printed or digital.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think it's okay to say the signatures are validated, because that simply means, hey, did you sign this?
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And considered by the board of directors here, we really just, they don't have any option, right? They have to go ahead and put it to a vote.
Right, yes. Considered
So
simply means they look at it, discuss it. In reality, what happens is if they see something that they're not sure about, what they will probably do is go back to the people who proposed the amendment and suggest something of a change to it, in which case the original proposers then withdraw it and redo it and work it out to where everybody's happy. At least that's hopefully what happens.
If I said reviewed, just to imply a little bit less decision making there,
I
is that
think that's a good, better word. There.
okay?
Okay, section 2, ratification of amendment.
Yes, you have a question about voting, which is a very good one.
I think we need, do we have where we talk about voting anywhere else? We talk about elections, but we don't talk about how to vote.
Yeah, I think we've still got some holes in these bylaws. I think once we've got them intact for what we've got so far, we've still got to go back through and try and poke holes where we left them.
I think voting we can put up here where we talk about elections. And specify that electronic voting is probably the encouraged, preferred way of doing stuff.
Yeah.
I agree.
Guys, I'm going to have to slip off to the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
I'm headed to do the same thing. I just have to drive to the bathroom.
Okay, that's fine. Let me get this section in here about voting so that should it be. I'm going to make it section 4.
All right. Sorry, guys. All right. Where are we?
I'm just adding a section up here about voting.
Okay.
I'm adding it to the Article 7 because that seems like a logical place to put it because we talk about elections there.
Gotcha. I see it.
I'm trying to think of how to best word this. All votes shall be conducted in a manner which maximizes participation. In the case of voting for the entire membership, voting via a and see, I'm not sure I want to codify this in the bylaws. I started to say voting via electronic. What I started to say was this by itself to start with. When I say electronic means here, I'm really talking about, there's a few websites that you can actually post a ballot with the choices, and then people sign in with some sort of either their, not necessarily their email address, but we can tell them to use like their membership ID, assuming we give a membership number when they join. They use that to vote, so that then we make sure that each person only votes once. It's basically a verified electronic way to vote, which is what the TBA ought to be doing, rather than voting in person at their convention.
Yeah, we've got to get that done, and we've got to get it right.
Right. But I mean, those things already exist. It's just a matter of using them. In the case of voting by board or committee members, I'm inclined to say any method of voting that still ensures maximum participation is allowed. In other words, if everybody's together on a Zoom call, I think you can raise your hand and do it live, and that's good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Yep, you can. So it's a good way to keep vote too, or keep track.
Right. Yeah, because you record those.
Yep. Yeah, I'm talking to my wife on the other side too, so I'm like bouncing back and forth.
Well, and we already said that in the first sentence. I almost feel like if we just don't specify board and committee.
Just take that out.
Yeah, if we just don't say it, then all we said about it is maximize participation, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the simplest.
Okay, then just leave it, those two simple lines. So now when we come down here to amendments, we already talked about how votes are collected, and so we don't have to specify it again.
Agreed.
Okay. Ratification of the amendment. The Constitution and bylaws may be amended by, okay, 2/3 vote of level 2, and I've got a colony removal professional. Members.
And I think it needs to be a 2/3 majority of those voting, not a 2/3 of the total membership.
It must pass by 2/3.
Right? It needs to pass.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs to pass by 2/3. It's not that it needs 2/3 of our members. I guess that's what that says.
Well, let me close the parentheses to, you know what, we already have defined this so many times. We don't need to keep defining it over and over again.
Fair enough. That's the point of a definition.
Yes. The 2/3 vote of level 2 members of votes, or 2/3 majority,
Right.
Of voting.
I was looking over in the chat. It looks like Steve recommended the words verified and expedited for words that might help in our voting terminology. Sorry, I just saw that.
I like that. I'm going to go up and add that right now.
Okay. What's the number on the voting paragraph?
It is Article 7, Section 4.
Great.
How's that? That look all right?
I didn't come up there yet.
Oh, that's okay. Basically, I changed voting to say all votes shall be conducted in a manner which maximizes participation in a verified and expedited manner. And then the
Great.
rest of it stays the same. Okay. Back to amendments. I'll let you finish with your typing. Article numbers, we use Roman numerals for it.
Oh, did we? That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think really we could drop this and just make a reference to where we already addressed it, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, drop that whole statement. Get rid of the level, and then we can get rid of the word voting. Votes.
The level 2 are the only people allowed to vote, right?
Correct. Should we just specify that up at the top and
Yeah, 2/3 majority of voting members.
okay. Go ahead and say voting member. Okay, well, I'm going to go up to the membership section and just say class 2 or that section members are the only ones that get to vote.
Yeah, great.
Um,
You could even just define a level 2 member. You could even just define voting member as a level 2 member in good standing, and be done with it, I guess, couldn't you?
well, that's what I'm doing up at the membership type, where I say
Okay.
I'm basically saying colony removal professionals, and then this. There. it's pretty point blank. Swarm capture members only do not have voting privileges within the organization. Colony removal professionals do have voting privileges within the organization. Now, later on, I'll go through and clean up all the other things where I specified that because we don't need to anymore.
Okay.
I'll do that later. There's no sense in doing that in the middle of a meeting where everybody's connected.
Well, it's the next thing we're going to do anyway when you get to it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see, back down to amendments. Okay, looking at what you added. Oh, you're looking at dissolution. Let me scroll up and look at the other part while you do that.
Yeah, I was just changing the part where it referenced that again to just say voting.
Oh,
members.
yeah,
That's
okay.
what you just did.
Oh, okay, so section 2, ratification. Yeah, that's just cleaned up now.
Yeah. And then same thing here, basically. You had a reference to that same spot above, and I just changed it to voting members, right?
Right, yes. Good.
Three-quarters of the voting members is a really strong vote, but I guess that's the point.
Yeah.
The only risk being that you'd have a failing organization with a whole bunch of inactive members who nonetheless are current members.
Well, but 90 days after, is it 90 days after the first of the year? They all get dropped if they didn't renew.
So you'd have a moment there where conceivably even the board could vote as three-quarters of the members.
Yeah, if nobody ever renewed.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. It's just a really strong vote.
That sentence looks a little ambiguous with just saying three-quarters of the voting members, because that could be interpreted as three-quarters of the people who vote versus three-quarters of the members of the organization.
Good point. By not less than three-quarters of the.
It can be misinterpreted.
And I'm not even clear where this vote is happening. Is it happening? I guess it's happening at an organization meeting. It's happening at an annual meeting. It's not because it's members.
To be honest, I've never actually seen any organization where this happens. The only purpose of this section is so that if there's assets that the organization has, and then the organization dissolves,
right?
Those members don't just get to take everything home with them.
Right. No, I understand that. And Trinity Valley did dissolve at one point. Our logo says 1969 is when we were founded, but we fell apart and reformed in the meantime. It was before my time, but I know the funds were donated to a local children's home, I think it was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I mean, I wouldn't rule out the possibility. In that case, it took Africanized bees and varroa mites, I think.
Yeah.
The coronavirus of beekeeping.
Right.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of showing some sort of mention of live bee removal industry rather than just beekeeping, but I do understand organizations focused on that may be in short supply, so we probably name both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Otherwise, it looks right to me. It's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty. Order of business. So this is just generic stuff here.
It is. To some extent, let me start here. In the beekeeping clubs, I think our members hate hearing this stuff. And as a result, at least one board I'm on has decided not to present this stuff to the members outside of an annual meeting.
Well, actually, neither does our club.
So
our club, basically, we only do this at board meetings.
Okay.
And we have decided that we probably ought to change our bylaws because our bylaws still say exactly this. But
It gives the impression this is happening at any meeting of the members.
well, our meeting for this organization, it probably is going to be a full meeting like this.
Okay.
Most clubs, their meetings are pretty much educational, where you have a guest speaker come in and talk about something.
Absolutely.
And everybody wants to get through the boring business crap to get to the education.
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily going to be true for this group.
And you may very well be right. So maybe this does, and it does say so far as the character and nature of the meeting may permit, which gives you some flexibility.
That's true.
I don't hate it. I just hate having stuff in the bylaws that we don't end up doing. That's what I don't like.
Yeah, I understand that. My inclination is leave it there, and if at some point we never do it, and we want to go through the problem of removing it, we can delete it all. Voting members.
If needed, yeah. What if instead of like a bullet point list, we just described the nature of this to some degree, like, at meetings of the organization shall include reports from officers and committees as needed. And I think it would end up a little bit more flexible.
I'm cool with that if you want to shorten it up and make it a little more concise.
Yeah. From officers and committees as pertinent to active business of
Actually, I think you can just leave it as reports from officers and committees, because if there's nothing to report, you just go by them.
True. Okay.
That gets us down to election, which we could leave. We don't really elect new members. That one we need to delete.
Okay.
I like it short like that.
What if instead of election we put something about votes? Any votes needed? Because that would include election, but it would also include anything else.
Well, most of the votes are going to show up under either unfinished business or new business. Like if there's a bylaws amendment, that's going to be under new business item. Right?
Yeah, I guess you're right. So that is the only thing that's relevant to there. Okay. Okay, so we're just shortening that up a little bit.
Yeah. There we go.
Does that still have too much space in it, or did that do it?
I think it's right. I think it's just where the page break is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Meetings of the board of directors. That one I think we can leave because it says the order of business unless otherwise directed by a majority of those vote present. So the board can do away with the specific order if we want to. Basically, this is just a guideline so that people that don't normally know how to run a meeting have some sense of what to start with.
Okay. We could just say at meetings of the board of directors, the order of business is directed by a majority vote of those present.
That's fine.
I understand what you're saying about guidance, though. I'm not trying to take out everything helpful or anything.
Yeah, well, it's just,
I guess by page 13, I'm appreciating brevity some.
not to put a fine point on it, but I've seen too many organizations where the person that's elected is a great person and they may be really good at their trade. They're not really good at running meetings or being the president of an organization.
Yeah, it happens. I get it.
And I'm still not sure about Article 13, if we really need that or not, but yeah, I'm good with that if not.
In fact, we could probably just title this Robert's Rules of Order, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we have done a great job of doing a first pass on this. I think we still have some comments down the side that we may need to get back to eventually.
Well, what I would like to do is put it out there again for everybody to look at that's on the professional Facebook group. And I can tell you, I know what's going to happen. We'll put it out there and pretty much nobody's going to look at it. But at least we're doing our part.
Right.
You tried.
We tried. We're doing our part to put it out there. Certainly, we can go through it again and keep doing what we did. You know, make comments or make suggestions, and then we can kind of hash it out and talk about it.
Yeah. Steve says he made 2 comments. I think he means in the document.
Up in the document? Okay.
I'm not sure where.
Those are old comments that we made.
It is getting late fast, though. If we do think
it is.
one more revisit, I'd be down to set one more meeting after everybody's had a chance to look at it if they want to.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's see. I'm getting to my calendar now. Today is the 10th.
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday next week.
Good for me.
Yeah, either one is fine for me.
Okay, like about 7?
I'd like Monday better. That's Monday the 15th?
Yep, Monday the 15th.
Yeah.
I may be doing a removal. I'm just listening in, but whatever.
At night?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess in the summer it makes sense to do them at night.
Yeah, and I work on base, so I get to them when I get to them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what time do y'all think? Like 7?
Yeah, 7's good for me.
Okay.
A little later and a little darker is fine by me if it's not too late for you guys.
8?
Let's do 8.
Yeah.
8's
Hopefully we won't have as much to go through next time. We said that this time too.
Yeah, we did. It happens.
Okay.
Chris,
I will.
Zoom
I'll
meeting
put,
for that?
I'll put the Zoom invite out there and do another event. All right.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I know this is kind of boring, hard work, but it needs done.
It's just
I really appreciate people willing to do it.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. Y'all have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.